chunk of books here to talk to you about. I think these are from like the past couple of weeks. I don't think I did one last week when I finished the first one. I finished the first one on the 19th, and it's the 30th now, so it's the past couple of weeks. A lot of manga, we got some horror, we got some fantasy, but we're starting off with a reread, and that is of the third volume of Monthly Girls no Saki-kun by Izumi Tsubaki. And I really honestly should buy a new copy of this book before my book month runs out this month, because this one is in absolute terrible condition. I bought it used, but it's just like, it's from a library, so they cut out the barcode there, and it's there, and it's all, you know, it's no mystery why they sold this copy. But no, Monthly Girls no Saki-kun is probably my favorite manga series of all time. It is absolutely hilarious. It is a story about this girl, Chiyo Sakura, and she's in love with this tall, strong, handsome man in her class. Well, I don't even think he's in her class. He's in her grade, and his name is Nozaki, and he's very mysterious, and she's just so in love with him. But when she goes to confess that love to him, he thinks that she is asking for an autograph because he is a famous shoujo manga artist. And so he signs it, and he gives it to her, and she's like, oh, okay. And then she just starts helping him out with his manga, and it is adorable, and it is wonderful, and everybody's so dumb, but everybody also like gets to play the straight man sometimes. It's perfect. It's a perfect series. It comes out with like 1 volume a year. I did pre-order volume 15. It's coming out in September. I'm very excited. But no, it's been a great experience rereading these books because I just love them so much. They're hilarious. I just cackle gleefully while reading these books, and it's wonderful. Of course, I give it 5 out of 5 stars on the reread. The art style, it's like this. It's from the mid 2010s, or at least that's when it started, and it is a high school anime for me. I mean, there's an anime too. It's wonderful. But I didn't actually start reading the manga until I started teaching high school. But it's a high school kind of reminiscence for me. So it is kind of typical of the time, but I think it's very cute. It's a good series. All right, next I read a very well done, I would say, gay hockey romance. And these books are generally, I mean, naturally, I've read the mother of them all, Heated Rivalry, which is mostly sex scenes interspersed with some vague plot. But the opposite could be said for Double Shifting by Michaela Gray. So this is a story about these two teammates, and one of them has been in love with the other one for a long fucking time. But the one who is the unknowing recipient of the love gets a major concussion, and that comes with some memory loss. And so the one who was in love lies and says he's the other guy's husband so that he can get into the ICU. And I'm assuming it's this guy. But the guy who has memory loss is like, I'm just gonna use their fucking names. Rory is the guy who's in love. Dima has memory loss. So Dima has memory loss, and when he gets told that Rory's his husband, he's like, oh, okay, that checks out. And Rory's just like freaking out about the whole thing. It's a very short book. It's very fast. The print is also like real skinny on the page, so it goes by very, very fast. I think I read it in a day. One thing that this book I think did really well was the characterization. I think that the characterization I think Rory in particular I liked just because he was like kind of self-destructive and just kind of a loser in the perfect way, in a wonderful way. And there was definitely some stuff in his past like that the author hinted at but that we never really learned about. And like I would like to know more about this, but looking at her books and her work, stuff like that, she hasn't written anything else even about this team. She's written other hockey romances. I do have one coming. I'm excited because I think she's a good author. But she hasn't written anything else about the Boston Otters. And I'm like, can we get some more? Because I also like the side characters here. I liked them. I thought they were fun. But maybe more is coming. When did this come out? Let me see. Oh my god, she doesn't do a page. God damn it. This is self-published. And she doesn't do a page in the front that tells me when this came out. God damn it. I'll put it up on the screen. But you know, I really like this. I really like the characterization. When it comes to the sex scenes, there are a couple, but it's not like Heated Rivalry. You know, it's not like sex scene, a little bit of plot, sex scene, a little bit of plot, and so on and so forth. It is really very heavily focused on the characters and their relationship, and I thought it was really good. I thought it was really well done. 5 out of 5 stars. All right, next I read a little collection of like children's short stories, and there's Invasion of the Road Weenies by David Lubar. And David Lubar wrote a lot of these books that have a lot of these little short stories, and these are really kind of weird, just short stories about weird things that can happen. There's a lot of dying and there's a lot of stuff like that. And they're almost written kind of like Goosebumps. And I do think, honestly, this is a book that I will be putting in my classroom. I think that it'll do well just because they're kind of edgy and they kind of make you feel like you're getting away with something if you are, especially if you're previously coming out of a class where the teacher wouldn't let you read scary books, which I know, I really like my fellow teachers. I know there are some of them that are like that. But I think that horror is such a good place for children to like explore those scary things. And this book, and it makes it funny. It's not like super, it says warped and creepy tales. It's not super, you know, it's not like realistic depictions of you know, death and violence and scariness. It's just it's kind of goofy, you know. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun time, and it is one I'm definitely going to put in my classroom. I think it's going to be good for kind of reluctant readers. So there is that. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Then I had another reread. I'm just really tearing through all my books that I put on my reread list. At this point, I only have 1 or 2 more that's not like part of a series that I decided that I'm going to, when I started, I'm going to read the whole series, I guess. That's what Month of Girls and Sakukan is. But the one that I did reread is Books of Blood, Volumes 1, 2, 3 by Clive Barker. And so as I've been reading more horror, when I started reading more horror, like obviously I've always loved horror. Horror has always been my big thing. However, that mostly meant that I really like Stephen King. I read so much Stephen King in high school and college. And so when I started getting into horror, one of the first authors, into more horror that's not Stephen King, one of the first authors that I kind of went to was Clive Barker. And as I read more of his books, I realized that I like Clive Barker, but what I really liked about Clive Barker was his short stories. And this book really just, it's got so many good ones. In the Hills, the Cities, Midnight Meat Train, Rawhead Rex. What else does this one have? Books, I even like the Books of Blood kind of introduction. I think it's super fun. What else is in here? Oh, come on. Pig Blood Blues. I can't believe I forgot. I love Pig Blood Blues. That was really fun. I do think I like that. I think that the Inhuman Condition does kind of hold its own as like my favorite, but this one is definitely a good time. I love it a lot. The Books of Blood are fantastic. All right, then I read a volume of a manga in a series that I do not care about. This happens frequently because I get lots of manga on eBay, and some of them are in series that I enjoy, some of them are in series I don't care about. And a lot of the times, not a lot of times, occasionally I'll read a random book. It could even be as far in as like 19 volumes deep, and I decide I like it, I want to go back to the front. That is not the case with this one. This is the 51st volume of Fairy Tail. I think I've read like the first volume, maybe like the 20th volume. I don't know. I've read various volumes of the series, and I don't really care about it all that much. This is the art style. This was very popular when I was in high school. I never got into it. I do appreciate the fantasy genre in manga pre the isekai boom. I can't stand isekai. I think that it's so boring. So I can appreciate the fact that this kind of came before that. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I couldn't tell you what it's about. Then I had another reread, and that is another manga. This is a reread of the first volume in a series that I loved when I was in high school. Before it started coming out in English, I remember this was real big on Tumblr, and you could get a link to the fan translation, fan scan, stuff like that. And I read it. I actually didn't read all of it, which I discovered when I within the past couple of years, read the 7th volume, and there was a whole ending that I didn't know existed. I thought it ended when Aiko killed herself. Sorry, spoilers. But you know I'm talking about Goodnight Punpun. This is the first volume, and Goodnight Punpun is a depressing series about this little boy Punpun and him and his friends growing up in a very harsh world that doesn't really care for them all that much. The art style is good. It's Inyo Asano. He's a fantastic artist. Punpun is consistently drawn as this little bird, and his innocence is his bird form. And so in the first volume, he's the bird the entire way through. The first volume kind of covers his like 5th grade and like kind of a little bit like 6th grade a little bit. He's like upper elementary in this first volume. And one thing I really liked about this first volume, especially as somebody who has read the entire series, rereading this first volume and seeing where a lot of these characters come from. My favorite character in the series is Seki. He is one of my favorite characters of all time. And his journey is really, really heartbreaking because it isn't just about Punpun. It's mostly about Punpun, but it's not just about Punpun. You guys care. You got Aiko, who is the love of his life. his little friends Shimizu and Seki. After Aiko and Punpun are probably some of the more important ones, because they stay consistently important from the beginning of the series onward, as secondary main characters. Seki's this kid with the band-aid on his nose, so you know he's kind of a troubled kid because he's got a band-aid on his nose. But I gave it 5 out of 5 stars on the reread. All right, then I started a new series, a new manga series, and I really loved it. I watched the first episode of this anime before I got rid of Crunchyroll, and I was like, this is super fun. It has the trope that I've been really enjoying lately, which is the overworked office worker really wants any way out. And in this case, the overworked office worker's way out is the zombie apocalypse. This is the first volume of Zom 100, Bucket List of the Dead. Very fun. Let me see if I can find some art that is all right. This is the art style. This is about this guy, and he graduates, he goes to this company, and it's just absolutely deadening work. And I think the way that this is shown so well is in an early scene. He goes to work, he's really enjoying it, it's his first day, he's really like full of life, and then they go out for drinks afterwards. And he's having a great time, and then they're all like, okay, time to get back to work. And he's like, what? Like, he thought the workday was over. It wasn't. It's never fucking over. And there's been, I think, a lot of discussion in literature, stuff like that, about overworking in Japan, where there's a very large problem with that sort of thing, with predatory companies really like taking over their workers' lives and stuff like that. But in this case, what I love about the series so much is that the zombie apocalypse happens. He's like, I don't have to go to work today. So he makes his bucket list of all these things he wants to do now that he doesn't have to go to work anymore. And it's fantastic. And this does go farther than the first volume of the anime went. We do meet some characters that I never met in the first volume of the anime, the first episode of the anime. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to be continuing on with it. I give this 5 out of 5 stars. All right. Then I read some Cassandra Clare. Cassandra Clare was like the first real young adult books I read were Cassandra Clare. I think I started reading her about 5th or 6th grade, I want to say. And I do remember that the first gay characters I ever read in books were fucking Magnus and Alec. And so I read Thread Scrolls of Magic by Cassandra Clare and Wesley Chu. This was originally, like, the first little bit, I was kind of meh on it. It was okay. I mean, Alec as a character is a character I've always really related to on a deep personal level, just with his kind of awkwardness and his unwillingness to kind of open himself up and stuff like that. I've always really liked Alec. And Magnus is fine. He's fun. But what really won me over for this book was when Raphael showed up. I did have to check and see, like, when the fuck does this book take place? Because I was like, I thought he was dead. But it takes place before that happens. Sorry, spoilers. But I did really appreciate one Raphael was my favorite character in the original series, like, forever. Like, I love Alec, and I can really relate to Alec, but Raphael was always super fun. What I loved was that he referenced, when Alec started talking to him, Raphael's like, the idiot 12-year-old, because in Tales from the Shadow Market, my favorite story was when they go and they get Jace to the New York Institute, but Raphael comes in and he meets Alec, and he is 100% Alec's, like, gay awakening. Alex sees him, he's like, oh my god, like, he's beautiful, kind of thing. And that's the only thing Raphael remembered about Alec, despite the fact that, as Alec points out, they've met each other several times since then. So that was fun. This was fun. I think there is a sort of, like, nostalgia in Cassandra Clare's books that I can't really let go of a lot. And a lot of the times too, I did really enjoy Lady Midnight when I read it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. This is a very deep world with a lot of stuff going on, and I can enjoy it. All right, next I read Spellbound by F.T. Lukens. So this is a kind of urban fantasy situation. We've got magic is very normalized in this world, and we've got our 2 main characters. The first one is Rook, and he is not a magic user. He's got nothing. But what he did have was a grandmother who was a witch, and so she's dead now. He's living on his own. This is kind of a young adult, new adult kind of bridge sort of book. I think that the characters are both, like, I guess Sun is in high school yet, but Rook is 18. And he ends up becoming an apprentice to a witch who's not allowed to have apprentices, and he doesn't have magic, so he's not supposed to be an apprentice anyway. There's a whole thing. This book is so plot heavy for such a short book, and I did enjoy the characters. I thought they were vaguely fun, but like what this book did was it really just threw you in, and you had to know everything, and you had to catch up like that. And it's very fast paced, and there's a lot going on. It was fun, but it felt like it wanted to be part of a series, and as far as I know, it's not. So I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. It is a fun time. I will say I was a little bit disappointed in it because for the first 200 pages there were no swear words, and I don't mind swear words in books. But what I do generally try to do is I have a lot of high readers in my class, and I would teach 5th grade. So if there's a young adult book that doesn't have swearing and doesn't have sex, I put it in my classroom. 200 pages in, we got our first fuck, and they didn't stop. I was like, God damn it. But no, I did like this book. I thought it was a good time. 4 out of 5 stars. And then the last book I finished in the last couple weeks, was Doll's Eyes by Barry Wood. And so this is a little mass market horror paperback. I read a lot of those. I get a lot of them off eBay. There are a lot of them on the book wall. It's kind of been my part of like exploring horror. There are a lot of books that on Goodreads, the only people who have read them are me and Grady Hendrix. This is not one of them. A couple people have read Doll's Eyes. And this one really surprised me. I really enjoyed this one. It's not perfect by any means, and I'm not going to like go seek out more Barry Wood books, but I thought it was a good time. What this book does is it follows this woman who is part of this family that has been clairvoyant. They're always clairvoyant, and it's really, it does put a lot of struggle on their lives, but they feel like they can really do a lot of good sometimes. And what this woman does is she ends up helping in this murder investigation because there's a serial killer who's been out like killing women. And then what this book does is, and how you can tell this book is written by a woman, is that the killer is so fleshed out. Like you can tell, like this woman may have been in the audience at the Ted Bundy trial. like it's that kind of sympathy. That maybe I'll cut that out. That's kind of rough. But I really did like that sympathy. A lot of the times when we read horror or serial killer fiction, there's no depth to any of the characters, and I really liked these characters. There was depth to all of them. All of them had personal lives. All of them had feelings. I really liked that big gruff Polish cop. I liked him a lot too because he was like 6'7" and huge and like ruined things because he just rushed into things. I liked that a lot. I thought he was kind of fun. But yeah, no, the killer, like the backstory with the killer and what was going on there was truly harrowing, and I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars as well. That is that. I'm currently back towards Viridians. I've been working on that for about a month now, kind of on and off, and I just gotta sit down and do it. It's not that I'm not enjoying it. It's that it's emotionally hard. It's emotionally difficult. I love Kaladin with all my soul, and it's like you just got to remember that he's like 20 years old, and 20-year-olds are idiots. So there's that. But these are the books I read recently in the past couple of weeks. There's Jelly Jam sitting on my chair. That's all I have for today. I'll talk to you later, and goodbye.